Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we continue with Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. But before we get into it, just an observation. They hit us on Friday night. A week later, on Tu B'Shvat, 7.8 earthquake. Tens of thousands dead, tens of thousands more in the rubble. Okay. Again, tragedy, but here's what happens. A week after that, they hit us again on Friday afternoon, killing two small children and hitting their father, putting him in the hospital in critical condition. 1 week later, on Rosh Chodesh, last night, what happens? Another earthquake. Okay, so I say last night. I'm recording right now. It's Tuesday. It's Rosh Chodesh Adar. You're going to get this on Wednesday, which is still going to be Rosh Chodesh Adar. They don't learn. I've never seen this kind of quick and swift retribution, and this timeline is going to continue. Every 2 weeks, Tu B'Shvat, Rosh Chodesh Adar. Purim, after Purim, what comes 2 weeks later? Rosh Chodesh Nisan. After Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you got Passover. Now's not the time to mess with God's people. Also, you could read articles. Iran is, 86% uranium enrichment and whatnot. Come on, Persia messing with Israel in Adar. It's not going to work out. It never ends well. And yet, sit back, enjoy the show. Let's see what happens. So let's get into this, okay? This one's called The Voice of Jacob. This is chapter 32c. This concludes chapter 32. Picking up right where we left off last week, let's start by saying some Tehillim. Hallelu et Adonai kol goyim, shabechuhu kol ha'umim, ki gavar alenu chasdo, ve'emet Adonai le'olam, hallelujah. All right, so last week we left off as the eyes of Isaac grew dim in his old age, as we learned from the words of Solomon that a blind man is considered dead. The night of Passover had arrived. We're getting there. And Isaac called his eldest son Esav and said to him, "My son, this is the night where all the world says Hallel." And we do. The Hallel reading is part of the Seder. We say it throughout. However, it is not just us, who says Hallel on that night, but the angels do as well. As all of creation has benefited from the Exodus, again, the heavenlies, actually all of creation really, because Israel is supposed to be where God took Israel to where they're supposed to be. Thereby, everyone benefits from that, as God took his people out from under the clutches of Egypt. Isaac continues, "On this night, the treasuries of dew are opened." On the matter of the Pshat, where it says the simple text and our understanding, the treasuries are open in the heavens. And the next day, we begin to pray for the dew, for the Tal, and on Pesach. This brings us to the spring or summer months, if you will, as we discussed in previous classes, which lasts until the end of Sukkot when we pray for rain. We went through the whole 6 months and 6 months. Now watch how our sages extrapolate, or dolshim, right? We learned about that there is such a place, meaning these storehouses of heavens. In Masechet Chagiga 12b, it says, Rabbi Levi says, "Anyone who pauses from the words of Torah to occupy himself with mundane conversation will be fed with the coals of the broom tree. As it is stated, they pluck saltwort, maluach, with wormwood, ale siyah." Siyah comes from siach. It also can mean bush or shrub, but also speech, siach, conversation. And the roots of the broom tree, retamim, are their food. This is in Job 30, verse 4. The exposition is as follows. Those who pluck, i.e. pause, from learning Torah, which was given upon 2 tablets, luchot, which sounds similar to maluach, right? Salty is maluach. From the tablets, mehaluach or meluach. Maluach, meluach. Same word, different punctuation, 2 different words, exactly the same spelling, okay? For the purpose of siach, idle chatter, are punished by having to eat coals made from the roots of the broom tree. And from where do we derive that? Ma'on, that place, that storehouses, is called heaven. As it is stated, look forth from your holy Ma'on from heaven. Deuteronomy 26:15. Machon, dwelling place, is where there are storehouses of snow and storehouses of hail, and the upper chambers of harmful dews, and the upper chambers of drops, and the room of tempests and storms, and the cave of the mist. Okay, Deuteronomy. So this again, look from your ma'on, from where you are, machon shivtecha. That's Deuteronomy 26:15. And the doors of all these are made of fire. How do we know that there are storehouses for evil things? For it is stated, the Lord will open for you his good storehouses, the heavens, Deuteronomy 28:12, which indicates, this is how we know sometimes opposites, even if it's not written. Here, I'm teaching you how to learn Torah. Which indicates the existence of a storehouse that contains the opposite of good. So you see, this is a basic understanding of creation, as everything must by default have a perfectly balanced counterpart. So if we see storehouses of only good, by default there has to be storehouses of only harmful or bad, equal to the storehouses of good. There must be, light, dark, everything, opposites. This is how God created every last thing in his universe. From the sun and the moon, light and dark, day and night, holy and unholy. And even from within the holy and within the light, there is a balance of good, i.e. male and female. Okay, they are counterparts on the side of holiness. So by understanding that there is a storehouse, if you will, of evil, then by default there must be also a storehouse of good, and vice versa. And even if we do not necessarily see the storehouse of good, we see the rains and the dew of blessings that emanate from this place, which is sustenance, in addition to the manna which comes from the same place. That is correct. Sustenance, manna, beneath the throne of God. These are the storehouses. This is what feeds all of creation, not just, again, the physicality comes down to our world, but the manna is actually originally light. This is what the angels are fed from. Isaac continues speaking to Esav. Make for me delicacies, mat'amim, which comes from the word ta'im. Ta'im, what is ta'im? Delicious, which comes from the root ta'am, which means flavor, which also we call the musical notes by which we sing the Torah. When we read the Torah, we don't just read it, we sing it. And then you have te'amim, which you know what letter to put what emphasis on and how to sing that specific letter for that specific note. So reading the Torah like this with song, it adds flavor, ta'am, flavor, ta'am note and ta'am flavor, both in the physical world as well as in the spiritual world. Brilliant. Now I'm telling you guys, Hebrew, okay? It just makes everything makes sense. You got the same word for so many different things, and there's a correlation between them all. So Isaac said, make for me delicacies while I'm still here so I can bless you. Isaac was referring to his death, right? While I'm still alive, okay? Meaning he didn't exactly know when he would die. But at this point, he began to be concerned, and so he decided to get all his affairs in order. Question is why? What made Isaac believe that, okay, I got to do it now because I might die now? At this point, Isaac was 123 years old, okay? 1, 2, 3. But he would only pass, when did Isaac pass away? He was 180 when he passed. In other words, 57 years after this event of the switcheroo took place. There is a Kabbalistic understanding that a son can die within 5 years of the age that his mother died. Since Sarah passed at 127 years, Isaac, being now 123 years, had entered within the 5-year range of his possible death. And so he did indeed get his affairs in order. He says, okay, I'm going in right now 123, 24, 25, 26, 27. Within these 5 years, there is a chance that I could die. Once after he passes the 27, 28, who knows? But these are auspicious times for a tzaddik to pass on the years of his mother's passing. Okay? So this falls perfectly. The Holy Spirit would reply to the words of Isaac and say, as written in Proverbs 23:6, do not dine upon the bread of one with the evil eye, and do not desire his delicacies. Speaking very much into who Esav was and is. Esav was known to have had the evil eye. He was the Baal Ain Hara in the world at that time, which is why we have learned that Jacob did not want Esav when Jacob separated the camp, so he's coming to meet Esav. He did not want Esav to look upon his daughter Dinah, which is why he hid her in a box, and also why he put Rachel in the back. And this is also why Joseph came around Rachel and covered his mother. And it said he grew 6'6" amot, greater than his size, that the Ain Hara, the evil eye of Esav, should not look upon his mother Rachel from his gaze. Because again, Esav had the power, being the son of Yitzchak and the grandson of Abraham, he had the power to give the evil eye. What is an evil eye? It's what we can give today with much less power. Nevertheless, it happens. Example, when we look at somebody or see somebody on the news or wherever, a public figure, you're like, I don't like that guy. Even just the negative thoughts that as you stare, you have that picture image in your head and you think negative things of them, it affects them. It all affects them. But also you should know, the way you judge that person, that kind of judgment is now, you are held according to that judgment that you judge that other person. Look at any U.S. president after 8 years of their presidency. I mean, they grow like 20, 30 years older in those 8 years, because guess what? Not everybody likes them. In fact, most people don't like them. And so that's what happens. Any person that has all this attention on them, they get that. Some people actually thrive from it, which is something completely different with the Sitra Achra. They thrive from people giving them the evil eye because they take on the cloak of evil themselves, in which case it just feeds them. Another class. But anyway, this is how these things work. So again, Solomon said, do not dine upon the bread of one with the evil eye, which is Esav, and do not desire his delicacies, which is exactly what Isaac was about to do, right? And so Esav went out to the field, and he was delayed there. So at this point in time, the twins, meaning Yaakov and Esav, they were 63 years old. We know that when Esav killed Nimrod and took the garments of Adam and Eve, he was how old? He was 15 years old. That was the day that Abraham had passed, right? It said God spared Abraham. God took Abraham a few years earlier so he wouldn't have to see what Esav would become. He spared him that kind of torment. So Esav, he's had these garments for quite some time, from age 15 to age 63. The uniqueness of these garments is that the wearer controls the nature. He who puts them on, this is you become a mighty hunter before God, right? This is how Nimrod became that mighty hunter. He was a mighty man to begin with, but that also helped him control the animals in nature. What would you do? You put on these garments and you would summon the desired animals and then kill them where they stood. Not very sportsmanlike, if you will. It's like, okay, you guys want to watch me kill a lion? Okay, he calls the lion just comes and sits there. It's like, how do you want me, master? You understand? And now we also know that at this time, Esav did not wear these garments for 2 reasons. How do we know that Esav did not wear these garments? 1, because Jacob wore them, right? We've learned about this. Jacob wore them when he came before his father, dressed as his brother. And 2, Esav was delayed. If he would have worn those garments, he would not have been delayed. He would have summoned the venison or whatever Isaac wanted. And remember, he couldn't kill it. He had to trap it, otherwise it wouldn't be kosher. Okay? He knew not to disrespect his father by giving him unkosher food. So he'd have to actually trap his game and then bring it back and give it a kosher shechting and then prepare it. It would take a while anyway. Nevertheless, he was delayed because he's like, okay, I don't need these garments. It's all me now. God made sure that he was delayed. So why was he delayed? God made it so that Jacob would receive the blessing. God is in on this. Eventually, he actually returned empty-handed from the field and ended up preparing something from the many livestock they already had in their possession, just as Rivkah did for Jacob. And Rivkah said to Jacob, "My son, on this night the treasuries of dew are open. The heavens sing songs, and on this night your descendants are to be redeemed from servitude. And on this very night they will sing songs. Make delicacies for your father while he is still with us." She was also aware of the time. Rivkah, you don't know. "While he is still with us, so he may bless you." Did Jacob not know all this? I believe he did know all this about the timing and everything, what needed to come. But what he didn't know is the manner in which he would receive the blessings. And that is the only way it could have been done. In other words, his mother knew something he didn't. Now again, this could go in. Why did God not tell this to Jacob? Because it builds his emunah. It builds his faith in God. God told Abraham, "Listen, don't worry. I'm going to give you offspring. I'm going to give you son. No problem. Your descendants are going to be 400 years in there. But then they come out. All this land." Okay, great. When, what, how is it going to happen? I don't know. He told him this when he was 70. He only had Isaac when he was 100. You see? In the meantime, what does Abraham do? Well, he believed God. He just moved forward. He did what he was supposed to do. And when the time came, it came, right? How was he going to solidify these blessings? Did he have any idea that God would say, "Give me your son, your only son, the one that you loved, Isaac," right? As an offering? He had no idea. But if he would have had an idea, then it wouldn't have been a test. Jacob's being tested here just the same. Jacob was proficient in the Torah, it says. Where is this coming from? What does this mean? Specifically, that one is to honor his father before his mother, meaning first honor your father, then honor your mother. As said in Exodus 20:12, "Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha." Honor your father and your mother, meaning first your father, then your mother. Okay, so listen now, please, don't get excited. It says this for a reason. As a man is more inclined to honor their mother over their father, because the mother is the one who raises them directly, right? The father, you don't see him all the time. You see him in the morning, you see him in the evening, right? But the mother is the one who raises the children. Generally speaking, the father is the one, with the whip. The mother is the one with the hugs. Not in every house, but I'm just saying. Okay, anyway. And on the flip side, a man is more inclined to fear his father, right? Rather than his, I know, I got the slippers and the hangers from both sides. Okay, but what I'm saying is, a man is more inclined to fear his father rather than his mother, because the father is hard with the children, while the mother is soft. So this is why it says in Leviticus 19:3, "Ish imo ve'aviv tirau." Every man shall fear his mother and his father. See, kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. Honor your father and your mother, because you are naturally more inclined to honor your mother rather than your father. And every man shall fear his mother and then his father, because every man is more inclined to fear his father rather than his mother. So the Torah balances it out perfectly. All right, perfect balance that God infused into the world, along with the natural characteristics of both males and females, fathers and mothers, fear and respect. This is how it works. As a result, Jacob feared in his heart his father's curse. Meaning that should Isaac find out what was done, he may curse Jacob out of anger, right? His mother said to him, "If he will bless you, then may the blessings be over you and your descendants." In other words, anything good comes from this, it's all on you, son. "And if there be curses, may they fall upon me and on my life, my nephesh," as said in Genesis 27:13. And his mother said to him, "On me is your curse, my son. Only hearken to my voice and go take them from me." Okay? Now, forgive me, but I don't recall exactly in which platform I brought this up, but there is an incredible Kabbalistic understanding of these events as they play into a massive role that is correcting the world, rectification, tikkun olam, and specifically the sin of the Garden of Eden by Adam and Eve. Pay attention. This is brilliant. As we know, the patriarchs began the correction, the tikkun for Adam, solidifying its foundation, while the matriarchs, and Sarah in particular, did the correction for Chava, for Eve. From the moment of the binding, when Isaac had died and was resurrected, he had all but completed his tikkun. Which is why, in other words, he still had to have Jacob. All these things had to take place, but that was his big trial, right? Which is why we keep seeing that he was more in this world, in the world above, than in this world below. In all instances. At that same moment, two things happened, okay? When he died and was resurrected, because it happened in like that. Sarah had passed and Rivka was born. Same time. As we know, Rivka essentially took over for Sarah, as we could read in Genesis 22:67. And Isaac brought her to the tent of Sarah his mother, meaning Rivka, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted for the loss of his mother. We discussed the whole comfort thing, I believe, a few weeks ago. Meaning Rivka possessed the same spirit of correction that Sarah did, since all the signs and the blessings returned to Sarah's, and now Rivka's tent. The candle was relit, the tent smelled like bread. Again, all the holiness returned to that tent the moment that Rivka entered it. In other words, she picked up the mantle from Sarah. Now, the same thing happened with Abraham, who passed the torch to Isaac, and then Isaac passed it to Jacob, each correcting their own respective transgression from Adam. Now, since Isaac's tikkun, his correction, had already been complete, God kept him around for the sake of Jacob, and then later on in the tribes. As we could see, he actually needed to pray for them when Jacob said, listen, my son's made a boo-boo, they killed a town, and now the entire land of Canaan is coming against us. We could read in the book of Jasher, Isaac had to pray, and then that's how first of all, they deterred them, and then later on, they had an incredible victories, shall we say. I gave a whole teaching about that. And it was brilliant, and it said Isaac prayed. God's not going to hear Isaac? Of course he's going to hear Isaac. Isaac had more schut than Jacob, even though Jacob was the chosen one, but Isaac had seniority. So there you go. Anyway, so we can see his prayer was very much needed throughout the epic wars in the land of Canaan, thereby having Rivka carry the Eve mantle, while Jacob would carry that of Adam. You see, he continued this. She was carrying Eve, Jacob was carrying Adam, because Isaac already completed his main tikkun. So now Adam and Eve is actually Jacob and Rivka. So here we have a sort of replay from the Garden of Eden. We have Eve, Rivka, telling Adam, Jacob, to do something that could potentially cause his father, but also Isaac, God, to curse him, you see, just as God did when he cursed them all in the garden before the exile. And so Jacob, Adam, said to Rivka, Eve, last time we tried this, it didn't end well for any of us, as my father cursed me, you see. Which is why she then said to him that your curse will be upon me. You get it? They were both tapped into Adam and Eve. What Rivka is essentially telling Jacob here is that she knows exactly where he is and where he is coming from, and that this absolutely must be done for the sake of the correction of the world. Okay? How did she know this? The same way she knew this. Genesis 27, 41 to 42. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing that his father, this is after the fact, but listen, because of the blessing that his father had blessed him, and Esau said to himself in his heart, right? It says, Vayomer Esav belibo. In his heart, he said this. In other words, not out loud. He was thinking this. Let the days of the morning of my father draw near. I will then kill my brother Jacob. Very next verse. And Rebekah was told of the words of Esav. He didn't speak these words. It was in his heart. Who told him? Who told her? She had this understanding, Ruach HaKodesh, obviously. Okay, so this is how connected Rivka was. So she also knew that code words to use with Jacob to show him and tell him, son, trust me. I see what you're saying. I know what you know, but you don't see that everything that I see at this moment, as all this has to happen. So please listen to your mother, okay? Honor thy father and thy mother. Fear thy mother and thy father. Listen to me right now. This has to be done. In other words, I recognize you are doing a tikkun for Adam. I recognize that connection. So I am telling you as Eve Rivka, your mother, if you will, trust me. This has to happen. And that's exactly how it happened. So Rivka did what she was supposed to do, and Jacob, by faith, moved forward doing what he was supposed to do. So Jacob went to fetch 2 kids, baby goats, as 2 kids were the preferred meal of Isaac. However, one would have been enough, as said in Proverbs 13:25. Who's going to eat 2 goats right now? A righteous man eats to sate his appetite, but the stomach of the wicked shall feel want. A great question asked by Rabbi Eliezer, and he answers. In other words, why 2? Why not 1, right? Rather, 1 is for the Passover, and 1 is for the delicacies to eat, as said in Masechet Psachim 70a. The Gemara asks, if there is no obligation to bring this offering, what is the reason that it nevertheless comes when each person's portion of the Paschal lamb is small? The Gemara explains that the reason is that it is taught in a Braita, the festival peace offering that comes with the Paschal lamb is eaten first. The reason for this is so that the Paschal lamb will be eaten only when one is already satiated. Therefore, you're not eating it to fill your belly, you're eating it for the mitzvah because you're already full. You understand? The Paschal lamb should not be eaten in a needy manner, but rather in joy and when one is already filled to satisfaction. So in other words, come on, you guys are hungry, I'm hungry, right? The Seder could go on for 3 hours and only then we're starting to eat. How much do you actually think we enjoy that food? More like I'm starving. And the moment we take a first bite of that meat, we're like, nom, 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 give me more, right? So this is how it's supposed to be done. First, work, and God knows this. First, okay, I gave you these needs. Work on your stomach so that you won't be eating for the sake of being full. Now that you've relaxed a little bit, now you're going to go with the Paschal lamb so you can eat it for the sake of mitzvah. That's it. Understanding this. Targum Yonatan on Genesis 27:9 says, go now to the house of the flock, this is Rivka saying to Jacob, and take me from thence 2 fat kids of the goats, 1 for the Pascha, Pesach, and 1 for the oblation of the feast. And I will make of them food for thy father, such as he loveth. Our sages say that Isaac obviously didn't eat 2 whole kid goats, but rather had kazait. What is kazait? Zait is an olive, right? There are different measurements for what you can and should eat. Kazait, kabeitza, and so on. Beitza is an egg. In other words, if you eat a certain amount of bread, the size of a kazait or the size of a beitza, it would make a difference even if you said mizonot or if you would say hamotzi. Let's say you go to certain pizza shops in Jerusalem. I always ask the guy, I'm like, hamotzi or mezonot? What do I bless on this? And then they'll say, either they use, the ratio of flour towards a non-gluten type of thing, or they'll say, well, you can have 3 slices and it's mezonot, but if you have the 4th slice, it's already hamotzi. You got to wash, because that means they know how much dough or flour is actually put in there, which changes the blessing from mezonot to hamotzi. It's brilliant. Again, and this is the intricacies of Torah. This is the breakdown. It's beautiful. Anyway, another time, but this is what it is. So they says rather kazait. Isaac ate only kazait, which is an olive amount, an olive-sized bite of 1, and the rest he gave to the members of his household that they should enjoy it as well. Again, this is before the Passover in Egypt ever took place. They don't have to do this. They choose to do this, right? Because we also know A Gentile can't eat from the Passover offering. Okay, and so Jacob entered and said, "Please arise." Listen now. "Please arise and sit and sate yourself from my bounty," as said in Genesis 27:19. Vayomer Yaakov el aviv, Anochi Esav becholcha, asiti ka'asher dibarta elai, kumna sheva ve'achala mitzedi ba'avur tevarcheni nafshecha. And Jacob said to his father, "I am Esav, your firstborn. I have done as you have spoken to me. Please rise, sit down, and eat of my game so that your soul will bless me." Okay, why is this important? This was all said with the utmost respect and honor. So you see, Shvana, please, 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 gently. Isaac then said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob," as said in verse 22, right? Vayigash Yaakov el Yitzchak aviv vayemushehu, vayomer hakol kol Yaakov, right? The voice is the voice of Jacob. And the text continues to say, Beichud Hashem, with including the name of God. As the voice is the voice of Jacob, Hakol Kol, there's a double Kol, Hakol Kol Yaakov, spelt the same way, according to the order of the Torah. Now our sages say that Isaac blessed Jacob with two voices. As we can see, Hakol Kol Yaakov. According to the Radal, don't worry, according to the Radal, Beichud Hashem, unifying, Yichud, Yachad is together, Yichud is unification, right? We're waiting for the Yichud of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His Shekhinah, right? How does this happen? When all of Israel are in the land of Israel, because the Shekhinah is keeping an eye on them and the Shekhinah goes where the Jews go. When all of Israel is in the land of Israel, that is when we get the real Knesset Israel, to very much the contrary of the fake Knesset, which is from the dark side, who are making all the rules. Okay, unifying the name of God as in the oneness of His name. And two, what's the second kol? Behigion Torah, according to the way. Higayon is the logic, right? But in other words, according to the ways or the logic of the Torah, okay? Unifying God's name according to God's Torah. This is essentially connecting God's name with His Torah, and this translates into Malchut. Malchut is where we are today. We cannot do anything without Malchut. How do we make God's name one in the world? Great question, pay attention. Combine Tiferet, which is Yaakov, right? The written law, with Malchut, the oral law. Can't do it otherwise. Yaakov is the aspect of Tiferet, the perfect culmination and balance between Abraham on the right and Isaac on the left. Abraham who is chesed, mercy, and Isaac is gevurah, judgment. He got the best of both, right? We discussed this. There's a reason that Abraham first had Ishmael. You take all the negative side of chesed, of giving, because Ishmael is all about taking. He's literally a thief till this very day. And Gevurah, judgment, why did Esav come out first? Because judgment is, stern borders and boundaries. In the negative side, it is bloodshed, the redness, right? That is Esav. And Esav, Edom, is still that way till this very day. The only way to realize the written Torah, as we had discussed time and again, is through the oral law, which enables us to fulfill it with the greatest of detail. Just like we were talking about the sizes over there. How would you know these things? Oral law, because the Torah says something, we don't understand it, but the oral law, which was given with the written law, explains everything. Another understanding of this, according to Beit HaGadol, is that the first voice is that Hakol Kol. Remember, the first voice, Kol means voice, yes? You got that, right? The first voice is that of prayer, that we say the Shema twice a day, thereby unifying the name of God. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, right? One, His name is one. And the second is according to the Torah, that is the future the children of Jacob in the future, the children of Jacob would receive it. So first Shema Yisrael, which Jacob and his children said over there by his deathbed, and then later on, the children of Israel, children of Jacob, children of Israel, would receive the Torah to be able to actually fulfill that. And let's just bring in one more commentator, Velo od ela, because he also gives some insight into Isaac's thought process while this is going on, okay? He says, it was the heavens that confirmed it was the voice of Jacob. In other words, Hakol Kol Yaakov, Isaac is not a fool. We're talking about Isaac, right? He was connected to the heavens. He knew it, the heavens confirmed it, that yes, indeed, this is the voice of Jacob. Isaac, our father, had an idea that it was Jacob standing before him. He knew it, because Esav had never mentioned God before. And so Jacob slipped. When we read verse 20, listen to this. And Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? In other words, he came back really quickly. And he said, meaning Jacob said, because the Lord your God prepared it before me. Ki hikra Hashem Elohecha lefanai. From here, Isaac knew, as he had said, it is the voice, as the heavens responded with the voice of Jacob. The voice is, the heavens said, the voice of Jacob. That was as far as the unity of God goes. So again, Esav never brought God into the picture. So that was Jacob's slip up over there. He says, "Uh-oh, but there's another slip up. Hold on." Okay, so that was as far as the unity of God goes. Or maybe the better way to call this is the sovereignty of God. And regarding the way of the Torah, this came in how Jacob spoke to his father. That's why I emphasized when I read it, arise, sit, and eat. Arise, sit, and eat. What does this have to do with the Torah? Because we know that a man is never supposed to eat standing up. And this is for basic safety digestive reasons, if you will. It's written Masechet Gitin 70a, and also that's what animals do. But listen what it says over here. To compare it with what Esav did, we can see then later on in verse 31, okay? And it came to pass when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and it came to pass Jacob had just left his father Isaac's presence, that his brother Esav came in from the hunt. Now listen what Esav says. And he too had made tasty foods, and he brought them to his father, and he said to his father, let my father arise and eat. You see this? Of the game of his son, that your soul will bless me. Vayomer le'aviv, he said to his father, Yakim avi veyochal. Yakum avi. My father, arise and eat. Jacob said, arise, sit, and eat. And that makes all the difference. Jacob knew halacha. Jacob cared about halacha. There's no sitting involved over here. We are commanded to sit down and eat. And this is in the 5 books of Moses. We'll get to it. All right, we're commanded to sit and eat. And of course, we bless God both before and after we eat in the very place that we sat to eat. This is also the difference between us and the rest of the nations. If you want to say that grace, thanks for the food, but once they're done and satiated, peace, I'm out. No. Do you understand that the prayer after you eat bread, Birkat HaMazon, is actually considered a full prayer? A full prayer. That's right. Do you have any idea how important that is? As we thank God after we eat, when we are satiated and lack the natural desire or inclination to give recognition, meaning I already got what I want. I said thank you before. It's the same thing in this life, right? If there's something that we need that we don't have, how much do we pray to God? God, please give me this, please. Yeah. But then once we got it, where's God, right? He already did what he needed to do. So why do we need to thank him? He heard my prayer. That's it. Deal is done. It doesn't work like that. And our Torah makes sure that we know that it doesn't work like that. Again, just something else to differentiate between us and the rest of the nations. Oh, and this isn't even a rabbinical command, okay? What we said about thanking God after we eat. It is actually written directly in the 5 books of Moses, as said in Deuteronomy 8:10. Ve'achalta ve'savata uberachta et Hashem Elohecha. And you will eat and be sated, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. And this is actually within the Birkat Hamazon. It's the first blessing. All the opinions, of course, are correct from all the commentators over there. We got incredible viewpoints of how they thought, what went down into it, and everything helps build us a beautiful picture, a 3 or 4D model with deep understanding of what was going on over there. Okay, it gives us beautiful insights into the way of God. So, the voice is the voice of Jacob in the unification of God's name, and the voice is the voice of Jacob according to the ways of the Torah. Now we understand this. But the hands are the hands of Esav in all matters of spilling blood and in every wicked death. The explanation for this is given from we'll read it in the continuation of the text, and we're going to get into it right now. What does this mean right now? Okay? So furthermore, and we continue with the text, furthermore, when it is declared in heaven that the voice is the voice of Jacob, the heavens rumble. Oashim. So as we have just learned regarding the oneness of God's name, the prayer in the Torah, right? It's the prayer, the Torah. Then all the heavenly hosts, Oashim, Rash is noise. They make noise. Right? When the crown of glory, which is produced from the prayers, guess what? The crown of glory that we place upon God, that the angels place upon God's head, is made up of our prayers. Just so you understand of how important it is. Every prayer is part of that crown. Can't lose anything. So just remember that. Visualize how that goes. But obviously, metaphorically speaking, of course. Okay, so the crown of glory, which is produced from the prayers and holiness, comes out from all the heavenly hosts, right? And they're terrified and horrified, shaken to their core from the holiness. They don't know where God is either. That's why I said, Baruch Kvod Hashem Imkomo. Blessed be God from wherever he is, because they don't know where he is, and they shake and they tremble. We don't, because we don't see God the way the angels do. Right? I mean, the angels don't see God, but you can feel the presence. Okay. And when it arrives upon the throne of glory, all the heavens, meaning the seven firmaments, shake, quake, and rumble. Now we can see part of this in Ezekiel 3. And a wind lifted me up, and I heard behind me the sound of a great uproar. Blessed the glory of the Lord from his place. Like we just said, from wherever he is, because we don't know where he is, say the ministering angels. They don't know where God is. They can't see God, but they feel his presence. Then and also meaning from wherever he is, because he is everywhere and he is everything. Then the sound of the wings of the living beings were heard, touching one another, and the sound of the wheels opposite them, and the sound of a great uproar. And a wind lifted me and took me, and I went embittered in the wrath of my spirit, and the hand of the Lord became strong upon me. In other words, he's feeling this. So this is what happens when the voice of Jacob is sounded in the heavens. And guess what? Guess who? Yes, I'm looking at you right now. Who is the voice of Jacob? The Jews. Why only the Jews? Listen now, okay? Because the voice of Jacob is dependent upon the following, which is absolutely exclusive to Israel. The following what? The following of the following things, okay? 1, purity and holiness, okay? Through food. All these commands are exclusive for Jews, not people who are let's say Israel, but have not yet converted. Not yet. Only once you come in. Through food, kosher laws, mikveh, only only for Jews, and all other practices of modesty and separation that are in the Torah. 2, prayer. With all due respect, and I say this from my heart, you know me, okay? Anyway, whatever. With all due respect to everyone else, understand this, okay? First of all, prayer is for everyone. Prayer is for everyone. Obviously, no one's going to tell you can't pray to your creator, regardless of who you are or where you come from. No one should tell you that. If anyone tells you that, run from them, please, okay, for your own sake. But only Jews are allowed to pray the specific prayers at the specific times as we had been given. Like all things, there is an order of all things. And 3, learning and living Torah. Only the Jews have been commanded to learn and live Torah. The nations learn Torah. A lot of people learn Torah, but only Jews have been commanded to learn Torah. The nations, they could learn Torah for their own education. You're learning Torah to become a Jew, who knows? But there's no credit for that because it is not a command for you to do it. If you think you're impressing God doing it, let's say, without the desire to practice Judaism, to become a Jew, if you're doing that, then good for you. But God says, I never told you to do that. Why are you doing things that I never told you to do, right? It's also in the 5 books of Moses. Don't do anything God didn't tell you to do, or don't do things God told you not to do. He never said for the nations to learn Torah. So understand this. If you do this and then you do convert, then everything that you did learn before, obviously, it gets taken over. So let's say if your conversion process took 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, and you were learning all the Torah before that, and it all helped you get to where you are today, and only on, let's say, that last day, then you become a Jew, that 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many years before that you actually learned Torah with that in mind, okay? Not with, oh yeah, maybe Jeebus. No, with that in mind. In other words, I'm done with that and that in mind. In pure thoughts to becoming Israel, that is accredited to you. The other stuff with the other dude, no, that is not. Okay. That's why we say, if you want to come in, get rid of that, start over. We've learned this. All of idolatry must leave your house. Your house means yourself as well. Okay. Only the Jews have been commanded to learn and live Torah. The nations may learn it, but are not commanded to do so. Whereas if we don't do this, meaning if Israel does not learn Torah, if the Jews do not learn Torah, the world is destroyed. That's why I have people who learn it 24/7. In rotations, yes. So granted, not all Jews live according to this. In fact, the large majority do not. But that doesn't discount them from doing so. And furthermore, as we have stated time and again, how Israel is a title that must be earned. And the way it is earned is by first becoming Jacob. Otherwise, you can call yourself Israel all you want, and it was Satan himself who gave you your name. Genesis 32. Whereas Elohim, God, gave Jacob his real name, said, you are Jacob and you will no longer be Jacob. Satan said, you are Israel, right? You are Jacob, you no longer will be Jacob, but Israel will be your name. That's what God said. Satan said, you're no more Jacob, you're Israel. That's what that's what the Christians say. I am Israel. Where's your Jacob? No, that's done away with. Okay, who named you? Satan. End of story. Moving along. So again, when it is declared in heaven that the voice is the voice of Jacob, the heavens rumble. That means when the Jews are doing what they need to do. And when the voice of Jacob is declared upon the earth, anyone who hears and does, because we were commanded to do so in Deuteronomy 7:10, you shall therefore observe the commandments and the statutes and the ordinances which I commanded you this day to do, not just to, well, that's nice. No, to do. Mitzvot, commands. Anyone who hears and does, his portion will be with the voice, and this is the voice of Jacob. Hakol kol Yaakov. Anyone that does this, their voice is together with the voice of Jacob. Their voice is the voice of Jacob. And that we can see in Deuteronomy 7:12, the next verse. And it will be because you will heed these ordinances and keep them and perform that the Lord your God will keep for you. God will keep it for you the covenant and the kindness that he swore to your forefathers. Amazing. And anyone, we continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, and anyone who does not hear or do like the voice is the voice of Jacob, his portion shall be with the hands that are the hands of Esav. Okay. Crooked, wicked, bloodthirsty, idolatrous, cruel, manipulative, covetous, gluttonous, unholy, and the like. And the end of all these shall be the polar opposite of the promises to Jacob. So, okay. Now, okay, if you're asking, so if you're a Noahide, where do you go? Do what Noahides are commanded to do, thereby aligning yourself with Jacob. So again, eternal life to Noahides. But instead of 613 commands, you have 7. Live according to that. Live with good morals and ethics. Do that, which is what you were commanded to do. That's it. You now align yourself with Jacob. It's all good. Just do what you need to do. Don't do what the Jews do, because God says, what are you doing? This is disobedience. Okay? This is not about you, your ego, what you think. God already told you exactly what to do. Rabbi Yehuda says, 10 blessings were given to Jacob by his father Isaac, and they are. And we're going to see in the next few verses, just break it down for you. Okay, 10 blessings. The dew of heaven. What is the dew of heaven? It's the resurrection, right? The fat of the land, all the grain, and the vines. Nations will serve you. Kingdoms will bow to you. You will be the master of your brother, of Esav. The sons of your mother shall bow down to you. This could also be Esav. This could also be a reference towards Joseph. Jacob and Joseph are directly connected. Shall bow down to you. Those who damn you will be damned. And those who bless you shall be blessed. Concerning the dews of heaven and the grain of the earth, corresponding to the 10 words whereby the world was created, as it states in Genesis 27, 28 through 29. And may the Lord give you the dew of the heavens and the fatness of the earth and an abundance of grain and wine. Like we said, we just numbered them for you. Nations shall serve you and kingdoms shall bow down to you. You shall be a master over your brothers, and your mother's sons shall bow down to you. Those who curse you shall be cursed, and those who bless you shall be blessed. Now again, cursed, it says arur. Arur, lo mekalelecha yekulal. Arur is damned. Anyone who damns you will be damned, and anyone who blesses you, they will be blessed. When Jacob left the presence of his father, he did so crowned like a bridegroom and a bride adorned, as the resurrection dew from heaven descended upon him and strengthened his bones. The Hebrew uses the word venidashnu atzmotav. Venidashnu, okay? This comes from the word deshen. Modern day Hebrew, deshen means fertilizer, okay? But in biblical Hebrew, it means the fatness, right? As in the best of, or abundance, or oil. All of the above. And we can see this in Proverbs 15:30 that says, Me'or enai mismach lev, shemua tova tedashen etzim. The light of the eyes makes the heart happy. Good news fattens the bone. So we see that his bones became sturdy over here. As soon as this happened, he became a mighty man of valor and strength. Amazing. Now the word for bone in Hebrew is etzim. And the word for might and power is otzma. Etzim, otzma. There's atzum, which means massive, right? Which tells us that the root of might is in one's bones. Here's another example in Deuteronomy 8:17. Ve'amarta bilvavcha kochi ve'otzem yadi. And you will say to yourself, my strength and my might, right? And what kochi, koach, right? Strength. And otzem, might. Atzamot, bones, otzim, might. Now this koach, strength, is brilliant. Has a numerical value of 28. What is the kochi? Naturally there's strength, the might, right? So my strength, I'm using both arms right now, both hands. Yad is an arm or a hand in Hebrew, and yad. This has a numerical value of 14, meaning 14 and 14. Yad equals koach, 28. See that? Amazing. Together with both the left and the right, one receives his strength. How is this related to Jacob? And he possessed this strength as the culmination between chesed and gevura, making Jacob tiferet, splendor. Jacob had the best of both his father and grandfather combined, and there was no blemish in him. For this is said in Genesis 49:24. But his bow was strongly established, and his arms were gilded from the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From there he sustained the rock of Israel. Vateshev be'itan kashto, vayafozu zro'ai yadav, midei avir Yaakov, misham ro'eh even Israel. Not only were Jacob's hands made of chesed and gevurah, meaning he possessed the strength of both Abraham and Isaac, but this also refers to him covering his hands with the goat skins when he received this blessing that made him Avir Yaakov. Avir Yaakov also, in modern day Hebrew, Avir means knight, like as in like a jousting knight or something, or the dark knight, if you will. Also, a fun fact, Avir Yaakov is the exact letters of Rabbi Akiva. Friendly hint. And I need you to understand something else, okay? The power that we possess is only power given. So the entire work that we do is to be a vessel for receiving, right? Receiving the Torah, Kabbalat HaTorah. All the work that we think, no, that's not work we're building ourselves up. It's work of clearing out all the trash that was in us, because what we receive, that is where we get the strength from. Remember, this is how you work in the Torah. You want to get more? Be less. If Israel were not properly prepared, under the strenuous and careful supervision of God and Moses, they would not be able to receive the Torah when they did. As it is, they were ready, but they died when they heard the voice of God twice. And actually, there's a whole midrash. Actually, it's not even a midrash. It's whenever it says, and the people, ha'am, whenever it says ha'am, specifically in the parts of the Ten Commandments and also other places, when the am were afraid, it wasn't Israel, it was the Erev Rav, because Israel were prepared. It says their eyes were shining, just like Moses' face was shining when he came down the mountain the second time. Israel's eyes were shining. They were prepared. That's why God gave them the Torah. So how could it be that they were afraid? There was nothing of them in there, right? It was all God. So it really was not the Am Israel, but rather the Erev Rav, the nations that joined them around, who were afraid because they did not make the same preparations as Israel did. Moving along, if Jacob would not have been who he was while receiving this immense power from his father, Isaac, listen now, just like Israel, which was passed to him from his father Abraham, which was given to him directly from the creator of all things, he would not have walked out of that tent alive. The strength of Jacob was then passed to his sons, who grew to become the nation of Israel, right? The children of Israel became the nation of Israel. And so our job today, every last one of us, is to rid ourselves of the mundane, of the ego, since it takes up precious space in our neshama, in our nefesh, in our guf, and it caps our capacity to receive. When we do our job, we gain strength as individuals. And when we combine our strength, we are ready to receive as a collective. And then, when we are all together as one, is when we can make a complete tikkun for our ancestors, helping to finish what began with them in Egypt and in the land of Canaan with our forefathers before them. Little by little, step by step, as every little thing that we do, it counts. How do we do this? It's simple. Follow the voice of Jacob. And that's our class for today. I hope you enjoyed it. You have a wonderful rest of the week. Have a Chodesh Tov, Rosh Chodesh Adar. Now is the time to force yourself to be happy. Make it so, okay? So have a Chodesh Tov, have a wonderful rest of the week, and have a Shabbat Shalom. God willing, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.